My fellow sapiens. I'm Umair, and you're watching You, Me, and Everyone Else, where we unravel the thread of time to discover how we became the remarkable species we are today. Today, we are stepping into the world of first Europeans. How did early humans survive in the cold, ice covered lands of Europe for over 800,000 years ago? Let's explore how our ancient relatives settled in Europe, learned to survive in harsh climates, and eventually evolved into Neanderthals. We'll talk about in the next chapter. By the end of this video, we'll learn the earliest human fossils in Europe and how they are connected to their African ancestors. How Homo erectus adapted to Europe's changing weathers and ice age, how the tools and hunting techniques that helped them survive, how early humans lived, worked together, and developed some basic speech skills. We'll end by having a generational estimate that can help us understand the vast time it took humans to evolve. Let's begin around 1.7 million years ago in Georgia, current day Georgia, not far from Europe. This area is where we found some of the oldest human fossils outside of Africa. Fossils of a man and a woman, alongside with some basic stone tools, tell us that these early humans were already exploring new land. A little further south in Israel, we find more evidence of early human activity from around 1.4 million years ago, but they didn't move quickly into Europe. It wasn't until 800,000 years ago that Homo erectus finally started to settle in Europe, although some scientists think they may have arrived a little earlier. Picture these humans pushing north from warmer areas looking for food and shelter, and finding themselves in much colder climates, surrounded by glaciers and ice. To understand how much time passed between these early movements and eventually settling in Europe, let's look at some numbers. So, if we consider an average human generation to be 20 years, it means over 85,000 generations passed from time Homo erectus first appeared until they began to settle in Europe around 800,000 years ago. Think about 85,000 generations of slow adaptations, migrations, and survival. If we now zoom in our focus to northern Spain, where we find evidence of early humans living around 800,000 years ago. This is one of the first confirmed settlements of early humans in Europe. However, some scientists believe humans may have arrived even earlier. By 600,000 years ago, early humans brought the hand axe to Europe. These tools were used for cutting and hunting. Imagine these early humans settling by the river where food and water was easy to find. They hunted large games like bison, deer, and even rhinoceros. This was the beginning of a new way of life for these early humans in Europe. From the time Homo erectus began settling in Europe at around 800,000 years ago to 600,000 years ago, when hand axe technology became common, approximately 10,000 generations passed. That's 10,000 generations of human development, new tools, and new hunting techniques. So if we look at Grove, Europe's first hunters in southern England, around 500,000 years ago, large animals like rhinoceroses and horses are being driven towards the edge of the cliff. At the bottom of the cliff, skilled hunters are waiting with spears in hand. After the animals fall, the hunters move in to cut up the meat by the water. This shows that they weren't just scavengers. They were organized hunters. At this site, archaeologists found a horse shoulder blade with about 2-inch hole in it, made by a wooden spear. It's amazing to think how these skilled hunters were. They were able to throw a spear with such a precision, precise. And moving to Germany, we'll find another incredible discovery of the wooden spears that are over 7 feet long and were made about 400,000 years ago. These were carefully crafted with a taped tail to help them fly straight when thrown. Picture the craftsmanship. These spears were designed for accuracy, allowing early humans to bring down large animals from the distance. These spears are some of the oldest hunting weapons we have found, showing how early humans improved their skills over time. So if we go from Box Grove hunters, about 5,000 generations would have passed. That's 5,000 generations of humans learning new skills and perfecting their hunting techniques. Then we move to Spain, the elephant hunters. In South Spain, where early humans lived around 300,000 years ago, they hunted elephants. Imagine watching a group of early humans driving elephants into a swamp where the animals got stuck in the mud. And these humans then safely approached and either killed the trapped animal or scavenger their bodies. Although we are not sure if they actively hunted or scavenged elephants, what's clear is that they used every opportunity to survive. The first year, Europeans were clever and flexible in their way they hunted. They relied on mix of hunting large animals, scavenging for food, and gathering plants. But unlike modern humans, they didn't seem to hunt small animals like birds and fish. They also likely lived in large groups, helping them defend against predators and increase their chances of finding food. Their social intelligence, their ability to cooperate during hunts and share food was advanced, but thinking wasn't but their thinking wasn't as flexible as ours. While they were able to work together, they couldn't yet develop more complex tools or ideas. The cognitive ability of Homo erectus, that's where we'll start to talk about languages. Early humans, Homo erectus, had a part of their brain called Broca area. This is an area in our brain that helps us speak. Early humans had a more developed that part of their brain than their ancestors, which might, which means they might have been able to speak basic words. However, their vocal tracts weren't fully modern, so they couldn't make all the sounds that we can today. The anthropologists believe some early humans developed languages to manage relationships in their groups, and their group grew bigger. They needed way more ways to communicate about food, hunting, and their social bonds. But the kind of language that we use today to talk about ideas, stories, abstract concept like abstract concept. These things came much later. By 400,000 years ago, humans were living across Western and Central Europe, places in Spain, the modern day Spain. Archaeologists have found remains of 50 individuals dating back around 300,000 years. These humans had bigger brains and rounder skulls, showing that they were evolving into Neanderthals. And by 1500, 150,000 years ago, early humans were living near rivers. They used hand axe to cut meat and craft tools. Their lifestyle hadn't changed much for thousands of years. They were still nomadic, following animals and living where food was plentiful. As we look back at the first Europeans, we see resilient people. They adapted to their environments, developed strategic hunting techniques, and learned to work together in groups. While they didn't have the same cognitive functionality as a modern human, they laid the foundation for what would come later. For the time, for the time the first humans settled in Europe to the evolution of Neanderthal, about 30,000 generations would have passed. Each generation made small but significant contribution to the development of the tools, languages, and social skills that shape the future of humanity. I'm going to wrap it up by giving you a quiz. Which site provide evidence that early humans used wooden spears to hunt large games? And I would like to ask another question. What do you think was the most important factor in the survival of early Europeans? I'll give you four options to think of. Their ability to hunt large games, their social cooperation, their adaptability to different environments, or their tool making skills. I'll leave you to that thought. I hope you have enjoyed this journey into the lives of the first Europeans. In the next chapter, we will explore Neanderthals, one of the most resilient and fascinating species of early humans. How did they survive Ice Age? And what made them so different from us? Until next time, I hope you have a lovely day, a week, and a month. And remember, we are all made up of stardust, every single one of us. I hope you have a lovely time. Until next time, see ya.